Welcome back to the portfolio updates. Currently, my two stock portfolios sit at a combined value of over $66,500. That's made up of the $39,873 in my stake portfolio and $26,700 in my Vanguard Australian portfolio. Currently, my stake portfolio is up around 30%, which is the equivalent of $9,229, and my Vanguard portfolio is up as well. I'm going to go through quickly my holdings, what's changed, and how the market's been bouncing back. So if you've been investing and you've been keeping up with how the S&P's been tracking, it's been really strong so far this year. It had a little bit of a downturn recently, but it's bounced all the way back. And even if you look at the last 6 months alone of the S&P, it's up around 16.5%. So it's been a great start to the year. Even in the last year alone, it's up 26%. And that's one of the reasons for my strong portfolio so far this year. Everything in my portfolio is in the green. Apple's up 33%, Amazon 38%, Costco 60%, Google 28%, JP Morgan nearly 60%, McDonald's 6%, Microsoft 44%, and VO 21%. So overall, my stock portfolio's had a really strong time recently, but I just wanted to kind of go through how everything was performing and what I'm doing during this time. So if you might have seen some of my older videos, when stocks did actually dip, I did buy more into some of my other positions. So Google is one of the stocks that I actually bought. So if you take a look at the last 6 months, Google stock was probably around here. I was looking, and then around here, I decided to buy in more. And it's been good for me because I was actually in the negatives on Google, and now I'm up nearly 30%. I have nearly 10 shares, and it's around $1,738 in total equity, but that was one of the positions I bought. And one of the other ones I actually added to was my Apple position. So Apple, if you're a shareholder or you've been keeping track of it, in the last 6 months, it had a big, longer downturn here where people were worried about what was happening in China. They were worried about the iPhone sales, growth, everything like that. But I did a video kind of after Apple's earnings, and they announced that massive buyback plan. I think it was $110 billion. And the stock's kind of been bouncing back recently. If you look in the last week alone, it's up 2.6%, and the last month it's in 13% up. So it's bounced back. So now I was buying when it was around these 160, 170, and it's been good for me since I added extra into my portfolio. My total equity is around 3,500-ish, and I have around 18 shares in it. There was one point I was up around 40% in total on the stock, but because obviously I was buying in at a higher price now, my average share price has gone up. But this is actually one of the first stocks I ever bought. I believe it actually was. So it's one of my staples, and I plan on holding it long term, and it's nice that it's been bouncing back. Hopefully we can get back to this where it was basically almost at $200 a share, and that will help the portfolio get up even more. But I really can't complain. It's been such strong returns this year and last year, because this portfolio was down almost 20% at points previously. So just kind of trying to make the most of it, but not get too high on the highs, like I didn't get too low on the lows. Another big gainer for me so far has been Costco. Like I can see, it's up 60%. I have around $1,649 in total equity in it, and the last 6 months it's up 40%. I was doing videos on here saying if it got back into the 500s, I'd want to buy it again, and it just shot up, and I completely missed it. But I was just happy I already had exposure to it. Obviously, I think right now it's probably a bit expensive. I did a valuation on it, kind of breaking down like the share prices, shares outstanding, debt, cost of equity, everything like that. And it probably seemed a bit expensive, so it's not something I'm looking at the moment. But you can kind of go look down at it. Yeah, it's not obviously got the highest buy rating now. People are saying more hold. And it's the reason why is because it's such a strong, stable company. I mean, you look at all these different companies who are saying their kind of price targets for it, and it's kind of sitting at the average range. So it's probably not something I'm going to add into now, but it's been a really strong returner for me, up 60%. A stock that I also is looking at potentially, or I have been adding more to, is Microsoft. Microsoft has gotten by far my biggest individual stock holding. So disregarding ETFs, which obviously are my biggest three, in terms of an individual company, Microsoft, I have around 4,719 USD in equity, which is around 11.2 shares, and I'm up around 44%. So My average share price is all the way down to 91 and it's currently trading at 420. So it's shot up. Anything I buy now will boost up that average buy price. But again, that percentage of return doesn't matter as much. It's more about obviously kind of trying to take a long-term approach to it. And I've been investing in Microsoft for years now. It was one of my original holdings, just a bit after Apple, and it's been really good for me. And when it was down this time here in 2022, that's when I was buying, and I just kind of got the rewards in 2023 and now so far in 2024, with it being up around 11% in the last 6 months. But overall, no matter where you were investing, probably majority of investors have had a great year just because of how good the S&P's done. And when I look at my other portfolio, so that is my Vanguard one, I'm invested in 2 separate ETFs just to kind of get a bit more exposure. So VLC tracks the biggest companies here in Australia, and VGS tracks the biggest internationally. I think it's 1,500 shares in it, so it's very diversified across the globe. And I kind of just have these 2 as my main holdings in this portfolio. And I always say if I do have to buy a house or anything like that, I'm probably going to sell part of my stocks in my Vanguard portfolio, and I kind of just use my stake portfolio to do these videos and kind of diversify a bit into other individual stocks and pick, because obviously long term I think it's very hard to beat the market. So obviously I try to keep VOO as 50% of this portfolio, and then my other portfolio I just keep it in ETFs as well, so I can hopefully get the overall market gains, and I get some decent dividends through this Vanguard portfolio as well, which come every quarter. So my goal for this portfolio was to get over $1,000 in dividends this year, which I think I'm well on track to, especially if I keep investing. I did invest another, I think it was $900 into VGS, so that's got up to 111 shares, and you can see it's now bigger than my VLC position, which was traditionally always bigger. So I finally got them to 50-50, and I'll decide what I want to do with the portfolio going forward. But it's been nicely gaining for me, and it's now up to 26,000. So hopefully by the end of the year, I can get this to around 35,000, maybe 30 to 35, kind of in that range. And then with my stake portfolio, the goal is to hopefully get this to even close to like 50,000. That'd be a massive goal for me just to tick off. And I'll keep doing these videos, updating on how it's going. Looking at the Excel spreadsheet, you can kind of see a bit better how my portfolio is weighted, because it's all good seeing the numbers, but when you actually see the spreadsheet and the pie chart, it shows you how I'm kind of exposed to different companies. I would like to one day potentially split it up into sectors, like this much in tech, this much in retail, this much in mining, whatever the case is. You can see my American portfolio VOO sitting at 49%. I did buy in recently as well. I just want to get that up to 50 just to keep it half. My average share price when next time I buy is probably going to go over 400, because I'm sitting at 399.5 at the moment. But it's been a good year for me. Hopefully returns have been helping grow that. And then my Australian portfolio, like I said, it's pretty much 50-50 split as well. You can see how everything's been trading up for me. A lot of that's because of my investing, just because I've been putting money in consistently, but the gains are helping as well. Obviously this is at the start, or technically the end of last month, or the start of this month, and since I've put in another 2 deposits in, this will be a lot higher. Like you can see, this was sitting at 36,695. It's now almost $3,000 up on that, and my Vanguard is sitting at 23,000, and now it's sitting at 26. So it's pretty much 3,000 up on each almost, which is pretty crazy to think about. My dividends I also track on here, so after the month is done, I'll just add in what dividends I got. I think Apple paid a dividend, Microsoft might have, but I did see I got some recent dividend deposits in, which was nice. Again, all I do with my dividends is just reinvest them, so hopefully in the future I can get even bigger dividends, and I can just keep buying into the companies I own because I believe in them long term, and I'm just going to keep tracking them on here. You can see it especially with my stake dividend history, how it's slowly trading up. And as I continue to buy in and add to my positions and companies grow their dividend, like Apple has, like Microsoft has, like hopefully the S&P will, so VOO will, I can keep tracking it on here and it can get bigger and bigger. Again, with my stake, I don't really have a specific amount of dividends I want to hit for this year, but anything I get is nice. And then I said with my Vanguard, it's over $1,000. So my last one was 223, and so I should be able to, across the 4 dividend payments this year, hit that mark. overall, it's been another good week to kind of catch up on. Again, things are really shooting up higher and higher, so it makes it harder and harder to buy into things, because obviously things are more expensive. You're not getting as much bang for your buck. That's why I'm so happy I was buying so much during 2022 and building these positions. But it's nice to see the gains really help me. So it's not just my deposits, the gains are actually helping boost the portfolio value. And now it's up to 66,000. So hopefully before I go on my trip in a month, I can get it over 67,000, maybe even close to 68,000 in total between the two. And then hopefully hit my long-term goal at the end of the year to get it to over 80,000. That's all for now, but that's just kind of how the portfolios are looking, and cheers.